Welcome to our Inspiring Thoughts podcast today. We're really lucky to have Nicole Valens with us, who's the owner of Mind Matters Hypnotherapy. So, Nicole, it's great to have you on board today.
It's great to be here, and thank you for inviting me, Steve.
Oh, you're very welcome. I think we booked in a couple of months ago, wasn't it, before the summer holidays? So it's we're now in autumn, but it feels like summer out there at the moment. But it's great to have you on board, and look forward to having a good natter about hypnotherapy today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to telling you all about it.
Yeah, great. So what we're doing is, so today Nicole's had questions from me in advance. So we always like to set up our kind of guests as best as we can, that we get their rich answers. So Nicole's had 7 questions. But before we dive into that, Nicole, would you just share with our audience kind of your career path or what you've kind of brought to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in social work. I've been a social worker for about 15 years, and I spent a good 10 years of that in mental health. So I worked in a psychiatric hospital for a long period of time, working with people with complex and enduring mental health problems and specialising in personality disorder. So I learned a lot about mental health and psychology there, and developed a real interest and a passion for it. And then I decided I wanted to go more into the one-to-one therapy, so I trained as a psychotherapeutic counsellor. And the first year of that training course was in hypnotherapy, which I knew nothing about when I started at all, and thought, well, that'll be a useful tool.
Yeah.
Did that first year and absolutely loved how powerful hypnotherapy is, how useful it is, and that great way of working with people. So after I qualified as a counsellor, I set up private practice as a hypnotherapist, and I've been doing that for 10 years now, working with people, treating, specialising in stress and anxiety, but treating all sorts of different things. And then I kind of had a think about hypnotherapy, and really I want to promote how beneficial it is to people. And I know that not everyone has access to private therapy, and not everyone has the time or the inclination to have therapy. So I developed audio downloads, self-hypnosis downloads, which can work really effectively. So people can access these, listen to them whenever they want to in their own time, and it's much more cost-effective way of doing it, and works around people's work and family commitments. And now I'm taking that into the workplace, so working with organizations to offer this as a wellness benefit, so that employees can access these downloads for various things: stress, anxiety, weight loss, stop smoking, that kind of stuff. So that's where I am at the moment.
And I can tell, we're kind of even just talking there, Nicole, about how passionate you are, and I can see in your face and like your eyes lighting up as well, going, actually, that's something I really, really believe in, and can make a big difference to people. And what made you originally get into that? So before, when you worked with the psychiatric patients and the, let me get my terminology right, so different personalities, what made you get into that industry or that world?
So I've always worked in organisations that work with people. I worked in for the local council in homelessness when I first left university, and then I did a social work degree because I wanted to work more with people and help people more. And even when I was doing my social work training, it was the mental health modules that really attracted me the most. I knew I wanted to go into mental health social work even then, and I was very lucky to get a job a couple of years out of finishing my master's with this psychiatric hospital. And I said I was there for 10 years, really learning so much.
But isn't it amazing to find a job that you love, or you've within your career? So I've definitely, so I was in the banking industry for 26 years, but I'd probably say within the last year, I've found the job I love the most, I'm the most passionate about. I get out of bed on a Monday with kind of real vigor and that. So it's really lovely, and to kind of, with your career, to go through that path to being something that you love or want to be part of, that's amazing, isn't it?
It's brilliant. I mean, sometimes it doesn't feel like work at all.
Yes.
I mean, we're at work for, I'm not good at numbers, but let's say 60% of our life.
Yeah.
It might even be more than that. If we're not doing something we enjoy, then that can make us really miserable. So to find
Yeah.
something you enjoy, you're passionate about, that you feel is making a difference to
Yeah.
you or to other people, I think is massive. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's huge, isn't it? So and some people, when we do the podcast, will be on Podbean or Amazon and Spotify. They can't just see your big smile then that come across. If I can see your passion coming through. So let's have a dive in, because I'm fascinated. So when I connected with you on LinkedIn and asked you to come on today, what is hypnotherapy? Because all we ever get to see is like the Paul McKenna and Derren Brown and all that kind of stuff. So what is hypnotherapy?
Okay, and that's a brilliant question. I get asked that a lot, as I'm sure you
Yeah.
can imagine. I'm going to start by telling you what it's not, if
Oh,
that's
good. Okay,
okay.
that's a bit different. Yeah, I like that.
Bit of myth busting. So you
Yeah.
mentioned, TV and Paul McKenna. So
Yeah.
it's really not a magical power.
Yeah.
It's not anything like you see on the stage or in the
Yeah.
movies. You're not under the power of a hypnotherapist. You can't be hypnotized against your will,
Yeah.
and no one can make you do anything that you don't want to do. So there's no clucking like a chicken or
Yeah.
any of that stuff, and there's certainly no robbing banks.
Oh,
Um,
damn! You've ruined it already, Nicole.
well, I mean, if you
Yeah.
wanted to, that's absolutely fine, but you can't do it for me.
Yeah.
Um, so what hypnotherapy is a type of psychotherapy, a type of therapy that uses your mind's natural ability to go into trance to help you to make positive changes. And a trance state is a really natural state of being, and all of us drift in and out of trance, sometimes several times a day, but definitely a few times a week. So it's a bit like that feeling you get when you're really engrossed in a good film or a good book or a video game, when you're so focused, you're really not aware of what's going on around you, and you're kind of living the book or film or game. Or it's a bit like the feeling you get if you've maybe been in a bit of a boring meeting and you go off on a daydream.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that lovely daydreamy state. That's
Yeah.
a trance. That's a hypnotic trance. So when we're working with somebody using hypnotherapy, we help them, we guide them into that trance state, that lovely
Yeah.
relaxed state, by talking you through guided muscle relaxation, and then using visualization and imagery to help you get really, really relaxed. And then when you're in that lovely relaxed state, what happens is your conscious mind, your kind of
Yeah.
critical mind is quietened down, and they've actually done brain scans to show this happening. So the conscious mind is quietened down and the
Yeah.
subconscious is much more active,
Yeah.
and your subconscious is then receptive to positive suggestions, ideas, thought patterns.
Yeah.
So uh, when I meet with somebody and find out what their goals are and what
Yeah.
they want to change, once they're lovely and relaxed, and I can make positive suggestions and talk to their subconscious, which always sounds a little bit woo-woo, but that's what
Yeah.
we do,
Yeah.
to make changes in the brain, which will then come
Yeah.
out in your conscious life.
Yeah. And I can tell already, but with your tone of voice is very calming
Thank you.
and very relaxing. Have you had to work hard at that, or has that always been natural for you?
A combination. I think I've always been softly spoken, and people
Yeah.
have always, when I was younger, always telling me to speak up.
Oh,
But I've
really?
finally found the right profession where I
Yes.
can speak softly. But
Yeah.
yeah, you kind of you learn and you develop
Yeah.
that soothing tone.
Yeah, I can definitely tell. Even I know my own voice that I think if I'd be saying some things like that, I think I'd be waking people up rather than putting them in the subconscious from that point of view. So, what is the main benefit? So, before we go into particular benefits of individuals, what's the main benefits of hypnotherapy? Why would people be put into a trance or go into a trance themselves? What would be the benefits?
So as I said, because when you're in that lovely trance state, it's your subconscious that we can work with. So hypnotherapy is really good for working with any issues or problems that arise from the subconscious. So we're talking about emotions, moods, habits, negative thoughts, where your self-belief and self-confidence is kind of situated. So, for example, it's great for anxiety, and we know that anxiety is our flight or fight response.
Yes.
Which is driven by your subconscious. So it's very difficult to rationalize your way out of anxiety. So many of my clients say to me, oh, I know I shouldn't be anxious about this, but I am. And I keep telling myself I shouldn't be anxious, but it's still happening, because that's it's run from your subconscious. So we can use hypnotherapy to actually address the subconscious and to reduce the fight or flight response, to calm what we call the parasympathetic nervous system, which is what drives the fight or flight response, to not react to cues and triggers that we might otherwise react to. Or we can change habits. So habits also driven by the subconscious, which is really helpful, because we've evolved this as a way to save us time and thinking energy by doing things automatically. So this is great when you're driving. You don't have to think about what pedals to push or whether you check in your mirrors. Brilliant. Not so helpful when you're automatically snacking in front of the TV, or smoking, or biting your nails. So by working with the subconscious, we can change your habitual patterns. We can say, so a habit is triggered by a cue. So if your cue is, as soon as EastEnders comes on, you open a packet of crisps, we can tell your subconscious that we want to scrap that. Delete that one, put something better in its place. Or if we're thinking about self-confidence, for example, so I could sit with you now, Steve, and say, you are a fantastic person. You're bright, you're intelligent, you're personable. And you might
now
even
you're making me
agree
go
with
really
me.
red, because it's so true. It's so nice of you, Nicole. I've wanted someone for years to tell me that. So.
But quite often when we hear those kinds of things, although we want to believe it, there's a voice inside us going, no, that's rubbish. No, I'm boring. No, nobody likes me. No, you did that all wrong. So we can actually, through hypnotherapy, we can switch off that critical thinking voice and tell the subconscious what a fantastic person you are, and your subconscious will believe it. And then that will help you when you're out and about in your everyday life to feel more self-confident, more in control of things, and just generally better.
And I'm just trying not to divert too much, but just something that's going through my mind then. How do people get into this state of anxiety, or beforehand, to get these kind of cues or triggers, as you said, like EastEnders comes on and I'll eat a pack of crisps, or how does that manifest itself?
So I'll have to unpick that a bit, because there's quite a lot of.
Is it quite a meaty? Sorry, that was in my brain then.
Things in there. So I'll start with the EastEnders habit. So habits. It doesn't take very long to develop a habit, because we're kind of hardwired to do it, because it does make life so much easier. If every morning you get up and clean your teeth and put deodorant on and go down and have breakfast and do that a couple of times, your brain kind of goes, okay, we'll do that. And then you don't have to think about it. I'm going to take over those actions for you. So you sit down in front of EastEnders and think, oh, I fancy a packet of crisps. And you do that a couple of times. And then your brain goes, right, that music that I've just heard, that theme tune, that's the cue for you to open the packet of crisps. And your subconscious takes over. So you don't even think about it. You don't think theme tune to EastEnders, pick up the crisps. Your subconscious does it for you. And because it's subconscious, then it's really hard to break, because you're kind of fighting against yourself. You can say, I am not going to eat any crisps, and then the music comes on and your brain goes, reach for the crisps. And they're in your hand. So that's habits. Anxiety is different, of course. So anxiety is a really important function that's developed to protect us. We've evolved the fight or flight defense because the world, certainly back in Stone Age times when we evolved this, was a really dangerous place, and it still can be. So it's a vitally important aspect. So what happens is you have an experience that is scary or frightening, and sometimes your brain connects something that was going on at the time with something scary and holds on to it.
Right.
So if we think about the Stone Age man, they get attacked by a bear, very scary. So from then on, the subconscious thinks any bears are scary, run away from them.
Yes, yeah.
But not only bears, anything clawy or teethy or furry. So you might see a branch that looks a bit like a tooth or a claw, and immediately that will trigger that fight or flight, and you'll run away. And it might be that you run away a bit and then you look back and go, okay, no bear, but it's much better to be away from the danger and think about it afterwards. So your brain cuts off any kind of thinking. It doesn't want you to sit there going, I don't know if that's a bear, it might be a bear, it might be a tree, I'm not sure. Run away, we'll deal with it later. And the more times your anxiety gets triggered by a claw, the more scared you are of anything that resembles a claw or sounds like a claw.
So it builds upon it.
It builds and builds. Exactly. So it's quite difficult to kind of unwind that. It takes a little bit more work. But it's possible. And we don't want to get rid of anxiety altogether because we need it to protect us. But what people develop is anxiety of things that are inappropriate, or just a general heightened hypervigilance, anxious of everything, and we want to kind of reduce that down, help them feel calmer, more in control, and able to kind of assess what is dangerous and what is not. It's a bit like the smoke alarm in your kitchen that goes off every time you put the toaster on. You want it to go off when there's a fire, but you don't want it to be so sensitive that you can't make sausages. So so that's kind of what
I tell
we're
you
doing
what,
with
you
hypnotherapy.
get the gold star for me bombarding you with the questions then and going, hang on a minute, we just unpick this, because that's made perfect sense to me. I was like, yeah, actually that's really good, because you can see it being built upon, but then other triggers that pull you in. So give an example. I have a phobia of snakes, and it goes back from a childhood. My mum moved the sheets and I thought it was a snake in the bed. So from that point of view, so even we were on holiday a couple of years back and I saw a stick and I was like, it's a snake, quick. And it's one of those ones that I was just reliving when you were talking. I was like, yeah, I connect anything that looks a bit or could be, is that it just heightens.
It triggers it.
Triggers
it. So if you came to me, Steve, and said, I've got this horrible phobia of snakes, I want you to help me. What we would do with that is we'd get you into that lovely relaxed state and really calm and relaxed, and then I'd get you to visualize that memory, that first memory of a snake, and it would reprocess that memory for you, so that instead of it being in your subconscious where it's triggering the fight or flight, we're going to put it into your normal part of your memory where you can retrieve it if you want to, but it won't actually trigger the fight or flight.
Oh, you might have sold me there, Nicole, because it's just only when I was like, because it was many years ago. We went to, I think it was it was something to do with either the Queen's Jubilee or there was something. There was a Queen's party, and someone come along and said, "Oh, I've brought a couple of snakes with me," and people kept saying to me, "Go in there, conquer your fear, your phobia," and I went, what are you living on? Where are you? And the thing is, I could feel my sweat pouring off me. And that for me was not to conquer a phobia, to go and put yourself in a room of that kind of thing. So I think it's you might have sold me, Nicole, to try and help me out finally with a deep rooted phobia. So
I love working with phobias. It's really satisfying. It's very effective.
And you do it in such a nice way. You're like pulling me in. I was like, oh, okay, Nicole, I've got it. So how does hypnotherapy then really support well-being? So if we took people's well-being, and how does it really bring it together for people?
So hypnotherapy can support your mental, your physical, and your emotional well-being. So we started, and I was talking about working with emotions, so anxiety, depression, stress, those kinds of things. So hypnotherapy is really effective for helping to improve mood disorders. So if you think about your emotional well-being, that's really, really good there. We can also use hypnotherapy to manage pain. So it's great for helping to reduce symptoms of pain. Yeah, because pain is, although you feel pain in different parts of your body, the pain is actually a signal in your brain. So your for example, if you cut your arm sends a signal to your brain to say, damage is here, and we feel that as pain. Again, really useful. But if you have pain, like chronic pain syndromes or backache or arthritis, fibromyalgia, that kind of thing, there's nothing that we can do. There's no cure. There's no damage that we can repair, but we keep getting the pain signal. So we can work using hypnotherapy to tell the brain to just stop sending us the pain signal.
Really?
Really, really effective. Yeah, really effective. So that's a really great way of using hypnotherapy to improve well-being, because when you're in pain, it affects everything, doesn't it? It affects your whole life. Hypnotherapy is great for promoting sleep. So sleep is a really important aspect of well-being. So hypnotherapy itself is incredibly relaxing. So you spend an hour just relaxing, which is great. My clients always tell me how great they feel after a session. They feel very relaxed and refreshed, which in itself is good for well-being. But that promotes good sleep. But we can also use positive suggestions to help people overcome insomnia, improve their night's sleep, and get better sleep.
Because that's the bit that I see when I speak to people. Sometimes they go, I've not slept well. Now, I'm a good sleeper, so as soon as my head hits the pillow, then I'm out for
You're lucky.
I'm very lucky. People say to me, and I go, well, I probably have got a guilty conscience, so it's just one of those ones. But I've always been very, very lucky. But the amount of people that I've not, people say about, I've looked at sleeping and stuff, but I don't hear many people saying I've spoken to anyone about hypnotherapy about sleeping. So I think that's a really good point, that may be a hidden gem, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it can be really helpful.
Yeah.
And of course, the other side of or another aspect to well-being is our physical well-being. So hypnotherapy, lots of people know hypnotherapy can help you to stop smoking, can help with eating a healthier diet, being more motivated to exercise, that side of things as well.
Yeah, really good, really good. And what would your clients, what are the main benefits you see? And I probably cross over to like the question 5 as well. What's the difference that you've seen in your clients? And not to break confidentiality, because that's key, but what difference have you seen people go out, or difference you've seen in them over a period of time?
So most of my clients come to me for anxiety or self-confidence. That's the biggest issues that I'm asked to treat. And what I see time and time and time again is people come to me really, really anxious, not able to live their lives fully, feeling constrained. And after a few weeks of treatment, they feel relaxed, they feel confident, they're able to go out and do things, they're having better relationships with their friends and family, they're getting on better at work, or taking more risks with their own businesses, all of that kind of stuff. So all the things that anxiety holds us back from, or lack of self-confidence holds us back from, people are feeling able to do. And a lot of people talk to me about feeling lighter, feeling freer, more relaxed, or feeling more in control. I think when you're, for a lot of people, anxiety is feeling out of control. The world is especially over the last few years, the world has become very unpredictable. It's felt very unsafe. We don't know what's happening, what's around the corner, and we feel powerless and out of control, and sort of at the mercy of things. So giving people those tools to feel more in control, to be able to control their emotions, to feel that we don't know what's going to happen, but we can deal with it when it does. That I think is the biggest benefit.
And I really like the bit of we don't know when it's going to happen, but how we deal with it, rather
Exactly.
than it's utopia, there's never going to be any problems.
Because
It's
that's not
how do you,
realistic.
that's not real life, is it? And that's what we come
Exactly.
across in our line of work, that people say, oh, our company's brilliant, there's never any issues, or there's no, and you go, that's not the real world.
So
You know, you have conflict daily and disagreements or changes of kind of that, but it's then how you cope and deal with that and how you face into it, which
yeah,
is amazing, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And on a more prosaic example, so I have people come to me say, I've taken my driving lesson 10 times, driving test 10 times, and I
yeah.
keep failing because I'm so nervous. And then coming back after a couple of weeks of treatment, having passed their
Oh,
driving
wow.
test, which is amazing.
Yeah, it is,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
But it's, especially if they've got to that bit of they're telling their conscious mind, I'm not very good at this. Then
exactly.
as soon as they get into the car's as it, which I think is a brilliant analogy if you've gone now with the Kristen EastEnders, but the trigger is then getting into the car or whatever for them, that cue to go, I'm not very good, you're going to fail.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And the
Yeah,
more you
really.
think about failing, the more nervous you get. The more nervous
Yes.
you get, you can't think straight, and then
Yeah.
yeah, and
It's a
it's just all
self-fulfilling
beyond.
prophecy, isn't it?
It
At the end of it.
absolutely is.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, really good.
Exactly.
And how many sessions would people have with yourself, Nicole, before they start to see a difference? Or what would you usually recommend for people with like session numbers, etc.?
So it does depend on what we're treating. So, for
Yeah,
example, a phobia would be two sessions. Stop smoking is usually one session. Anxiety, stress, self-confidence is a bit more complex, takes a bit more time.
right.
And obviously, everyone is different and everyone responds differently to
Yeah, yeah,
therapy. So you can't give an exact
yeah.
answer. But most of my clients notice a significant improvement in their symptoms after 4 to 5 clinical sessions.
Oh, wow.
So the first session is always an assessment to find out
Yes.
what the issue is and what they want to achieve.
Yeah,
And then following that, I normally say we'd do 4 to 5 sessions, and we review it as we go along anyway.
yeah,
So see how people progress.
yeah,
And it's really interesting how some people will come back after the first week and say, oh, I've noticed already a
yeah,
slight difference. Um, Other people will come back after a couple of weeks and go, nothing's changed, nothing's
yeah.
changed, nothing's changed. And then on like week 4, it's like everything has changed. It's
Yes. Yeah,
completely
yeah,
turned around.
yeah,
So it really does vary. But yeah,
yeah,
most people
yeah.
4 to 5 sessions for
Because
those
that's the
sorts of
bit
issues.
to echo that as well. So we, because of me being an executive coach as well and trained as a coach, that the first session people are trying to gauge of, is this guy real, what we're talking about, what's going on. The second session we start to see people going, oh, okay, yeah, I can see a different upside. And the third session is usually we get that breakthrough moment of they go,
Yeah,
oh yeah, actually, you know, I've been talking, and they've come up with their ideas themselves. We've not, you know,
of
we've
course.
not told them what to do, but it's really nice to see that transition where some people say to me, oh, I can do it in one session. And I go, for a coach, there's bits you can help people with, but as you said, there 4 or 5 clinical sessions to really help with people is really important
Yeah,
to really
yeah.
get them through that path, isn't it?
Yeah, and as you say, part of it's building that relationship because
Yeah,
you have to trust your therapist. There's no you
yeah,
meet somebody for the first time and there's going to be a little bit of I'm not really sure what's going
yeah,
on here or what I'm supposed to do.
yeah,
Do I can I trust this person? And then gradually as you
yeah,
get to feel more safe and comfortable with somebody, then you can relax into it and you
yeah,
can really work with them.
yeah,
And it is a collaboration. It absolutely isn't me
yeah,
doing stuff to my clients. We're working together to make the
yeah.
changes.
And a bit, which is not one of the questions, but I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to take a risk on this
Go
one,
for it.
Nicole. How do you look after yourself? Because you'll be working with people all day, taking or working with that strong emotion, that strong energy, etc. How do you look after yourself?
That's a really good question, Steve. So I have supervision regularly, which is
Yeah,
really important. But I make sure I do regular exercise.
yeah,
I have good family and friends to support me, not to talk about my work, but just
yeah,
to kind of spend time with and
yeah,
make sure I take regular breaks away. And I've learned, I mean, as a social worker, you do learn to be really boundaried and to leave work at work.
so that's good, isn't it?
It's really important. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And how have you helped yourself setting that boundary of leaving work at work? Because and not in the same line of work as I know when I first started in the bank as a leader, a line manager, I'll be working till 11 o'clock at night. And I'll be like, I've got to do this because if I don't, the bank will fall apart. Or it won't. How did you set those boundaries, or what triggered you to go, right, I need to get those boundaries in place? How did that work for you?
I think it probably evolved naturally, because when I first started work, when I first qualified, I had young children. So I didn't really have much, I had to do my work in my work time, and the rest of the time was devoted to looking
Yeah.
after the
That's
kids
good.
and doing all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. So I learned very, very, very early
Yeah.
on that you need to do that. What I do now is I have working, when I'm working from home, I have one room in the house, which is the work room, and then I
Yeah.
can walk out of there and close the door and leave it in there. I mean,
Yeah.
we're all guilty of checking emails at night and
Yes. Yeah.
scrolling through LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and partly because I love what I do.
Yes.
It's the boundaries can get a little bit blurred, but I do try very hard
Yeah.
to kind of keep to work hours and
Yeah.
have proper breaks away.
Yes, yeah, and I really like the bit of shutting the door behind of closing, because that's where a lot of people struggled during COVID, wasn't it? Where people
Yes,
went
yeah,
from I'm out of my bed, oh, there's my work office, where people really struggle with those boundaries. But it's so nice for you to say that's the door shut.
yeah.
And because yours is more that mind, and it's heavier, I'd say a heavier feeling, but you can close that off, and actually then with your family and kind of relationships from that point of view, it makes a big difference.
It does. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, fantastic. No, I think I just playing things through in my head of going, yeah, you can see how people can't close things off during that COVID time.
It was really difficult. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
really, really difficult.
And one of the advice was to before you go to work,
Yeah.
to go outside and walk around just for a few minutes and come back in as if you were doing your commute, and then do the
Ah,
same
yeah,
at the
yeah.
end of the day. So it gave you that full
Yes.
stop, that
Yeah.
separation, even if you were back to the same building or even the
Yeah.
same room, but it just, in your mind, you're leaving and you're coming in.
Yeah, yeah. Is that something that? Yeah, yeah, definitely. No, I agree. And Nicole, how would people get to talk to you, connect with you? What's the best way that people can kind of speak to you?
So in terms of one-to-one therapy,
Yeah,
it's a bit complicated. I've got two websites really. So I've got private one-to-one work,
yeah,
and my business is called Stepping Stones Hypnotherapy and Counselling,
yeah,
which is www.steppingstoneshypno.com.
yeah,
Um, but in terms of workplace well-being and corporate, so if
yeah,
you're interested in um, having me come and talk to you, to
yeah,
your organization, or to have access to the hypno downloads,
yeah,
then that is Mind Matters Hypnotherapy. And the website for that is www.mindmattershypno.co.uk. Or you can give me a call on 07905 288 046, or email Nicole at mindmattershypno.co.uk. And I'm always happy to talk
yeah.
about hypnotherapy.
Yeah. And it's when we connected and that we come backwards and forwards and chatting, and it was also good, like you managing boundaries with me, saying like I can't do then because of summer holidays. Can we get together after the summer holidays and that kind of? So it kind of says that you live and breathe what you talk about managing boundaries and kind of that kind of work. But managing two websites and two bits of business is uh,
It's a juggling act.
yes, I was going to say, yeah,
Yeah,
it's putting the different heads on and going, which one am I now, or which one
yeah,
am I doing today?
a little bit, but
Yeah,
yeah.
and
One day I'll rationalize it, but I haven't. So I love doing hypnotherapy, and I'm good at what I do, but the technology side of things is a real massive learning curve for me.
yeah.
So I'm really trying to get to grips with all of that.
Oh, good on you, though. But if we were brilliant at everything, the world wouldn't be how it is it? So it's good to learn and
True.
good to challenge, isn't it? I think it's really good. Um, and what would you say? We get asked a lot about what people's own personal development is for the year, or what they're working on, or personal. Is there anything that you're working on personally for the year in 2023?
So like a lot of women of my age, I'm going through menopause at the moment, so
Yeah,
I'm really interested in learning about diet and lifestyle
yeah,
that can help improve the symptoms of menopause, and doing a lot of research actually into
yeah.
hypnotherapy for menopause. So I found
Oh wow.
that's a massive area of research.
Yeah,
So that's a big thing for me.
yeah.
And I'm also getting a bit older, a bit creaky, so I'm planning to get into yoga, do a bit more yoga,
Oh good. Yeah, yeah.
which is really good for calming and centering and stretching and being more
Yes.
flexible as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, those are my main goals
No,
for the
fantastic.
next
And
few
it's
months.
good. It's good about the as you said there, like the research to understand. So like as in menopause to really um understand what your body's going through and your mind as well. And it wasn't until recently I was speaking to a couple of colleagues about menopause, and it was about forgetfulness.
Yeah,
And I it just never hit me before. And I worked in a bank that was predominantly females, and I've never heard of it. And I just thought, oh wow, I can see now. Because one of the colleagues said, look, I have to have a book with me. I have to write loads of things down. Because and it's just learning that richness and being open minded. It's amazing how you can then start to manage it, can't you?
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, fantastic. Well, best of luck with your research as well
Thank
for that,
you,
and also with
thank
your
you.
yoga. So I really appreciate it. So, Nicole, can I just say a massive thank you for coming on today to our podcast? I really, really appreciate it. You've been wonderful and very open about hypnotherapy and also sharing and the benefits that go along with it. You've also heard from Nicole about how you can connect with Nicole and kind of talk through. But I would just say, please reach out to Nicole for kind of any help or support you need from a hypnotherapy point of view. But Nicole, thank you ever so much for joining us today. I really, really appreciate it.
Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been great. Really lovely to talk to you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. And I know our journey will continue, Nicole. So it's great to meet you today.
And you.
Thank you, Nicole.